Speaking of cable access, did you watch any wrestling this week?
Yes, I have access to my cable, thank you. I watched the Smackdown. Are we ready to layeth the smacketh down?
Possibly. For some of it, at least.
Oh, boy. Well, the Bloodline, I'm loving Jimmy Uso because he's so over the top with how he just thinks that he's just nominated himself to come back in, and he's telling everybody what to do, and he's putting his feet up on the desk, and Roman's not around, so he's taking it upon himself to be the most boisterous member, and he's doing a great job with it. And they started and this was SmackDown for September 29th, by the way. We're at the end of the month already. And it was Heyman and Jimmy and Solo in the ring. And have you noticed that Paul's hair now it's not like going gray, like from where he was dyeing it, like the roots are growing out. It's like it's going gray from front to back with a black stripe running through the sides of it. He looks like a negative of a fat skunk. Have you seen? I'm telling you, it's white on top and it's white on the bottom. It's a black stripe going around. It only goes around the fucking sides. There's nothing on the top.
It's probably the hair dye washing out.
As we're watching it? Anyway, it's just evaporating. It's like invisible ink. So they pitched to the last week the contract signing thing with Cena, but he's got no partner because they heard AJ and LA Knight had COVID, but we're not supposed to know that. And then
AJ has COVID too?
Or not AJ, but LA Knight.
You said AJ and LA Knight have COVID.
No, I said they hurt AJ and LA Knight has COVID.
I thought LA Knight and AJ were having a good time and they both got COVID.
No. They used protection.
That's not what I meant, but go ahead.
Well, clarify what you mean before I take off with it. But nevertheless, and then Heyman, the story they're telling is Cena's had transportation issues, but he's expected to make it there, but he's not there yet. So they can, a good little fucking detail covered, they can run roughshod all night, and Cena is not there to do anything about it. And AJ's in the hospital. And, between this and have you noticed there's a lot of similarity between the two companies now where there's a contract signing or there's a guy that needs a partner and the guy shows up just in the nick of time or all these, and the hospital thing, is it a rule now that since they're in a different city every week that the guy that's in the hospital has to check out of the hospital and go to the next city and check in one there? Because it kind of looks like it in AEW with Roderick Strong. He's constantly coming out of the hospital, but they're in a different city every week. Anyway, Jimmy snatched the microphone and did his shtick about, Cena's scared of him and he's just, he's the big dog now. And then suddenly, at least with no music, Carl Anderson hit the ring and attacked the Bloodline, and he's obviously pissed because he's one of AJ's guys. And the heels went to the fucking floor, and Paul whispered at Solo. And then Solo told Jimmy that he better handle this or elsewise I will. And they just went to the break before anybody handled anything. And I guess now they've just figured for the limited number of people they're left with the regulars, even on SmackDown, 2 million people every week, an extra few 100,000 when The Rock shows up. They'll know that we just went to the break, that the show is not over. There's a match coming up. They'll just know these things. And when they came back, there was Jimmy Uso against Carl Anderson. And it wasn't Carl's night. He got beaten about 2 minutes. And then Solo spiked him and left him laying. And as the heels were leaving, they crossed paths with Mia Yim. That's become another thing where people are crossing in the entranceway. She's going out to see about old Carl. And she slapped the piss out of Jimmy Uso. And that was that.
Are you excited? Are you excited to see the Jimmy Uso Mia Yim match?
No. Well, see, they can't have that because that's the entering of the genders. So instead, because he got pissed, they're going around beating up everybody else all night.
I don't want to add too much other than to say I agree with you. I thought the Bloodline has needed something for a while. I still do, but the new Jimmy Uso has been really good. He's been really good.
And you just know that Roman's going to have to say something to him when he gets back. And then they also had Escobar and Rey Mysterio in separate backstage interviews killing each other with kindness about their big championship match that was going to come up later on tonight. And then the Grayson Waller effect. And what is the Grayson Waller effect? Declining ratings? Diminished interest in the product? What is the Grayson Waller effect? So Grayson Waller brought out Lashley, who basically said that he made a mistake. The Street Profits didn't have enough pride to make it, so he's going back to the drawing board. Fuck it, right? And the Profits come out and try to talk to him, and he tells them no excuses. If you want something from me, then prove you deserve it. And he walked off on him. And that was that. And then Waller introduced Theory, who started his entrance, and they went to a break. When they
also, he had a little bit of a face-to-face with Bobby Lashley in the aisle.
Oh, yeah, and they got to pass each other and give each other sideways glances. And that was pretty much what happened in that whole segment, right? I mean Lashley said, I made a mistake. Fuck it. Profits came out. No, walked off on him.
Yeah, let's we can keep moving. I just want to say I agree with you. I think Waller, whatever they see in him, wherever that may be, he's not doing anything special with this talk show. Anyone could be in that spot doing this. It's all about whatever happened, like in this case with Lashley and the Street Profits. But yeah, I'm not feeling Grayson Waller at all. There are people who keep telling us we're wrong.
What?
But I don't see it at all.
There's no there. He's not doing anything groundbreaking verbally because he just does the same old WWE scripted heel shit where he puts himself over in a disingenuous manner and gives catty comments at other people and is loud and has a set, and there's no physique. The work is nothing special. He can talk a lot, but I'm not sure people want to listen to him. I don't see him kicking in and something being serious and being a money drawing level interaction with anybody with him. But he did introduce Austin Theory, who came out and had a match with Cameron Grimes. And this actually was probably the thing that I most enjoyed on the program in the way of the wrestling, because again, both guys are great. Theory is a natural, and Cameron Grimes is from North Carolina, so he gets wrestling. And, all their shit looked fine, and they kept the action going and the pace, but you could tell from the start that they must have had no time because they never slowed down. And basically, that was true. They went 3 minutes, and then Theory posted Cameron Grimes, and Grimes took a great post and a great bump off the post, and then Theory rolled him in and hit his finish perfectly. Looked like $1 million. 1, 2, 3. It was a 3-minute match. It was the best 3 minutes so far. But I love the idea of Theory beating people in quick succession, but I wish we could have seen something from Cameron Grimes before he got to be the 3-minute job guy.
Have we even seen him on this show in the last few weeks?
I haven't seen him in a while.
He had so much going for him in NXT, and then all of a sudden he cut his hair, he shaved his chest hair.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done anything on the main roster, and it's a shame. He has a lot of talent.
And of course, they made him quite silly at NXT, but if he was being him rather than the over-the-top version, he was great. But so now, basically, in the first 45 minutes of the show, we've had 5 minutes of actual wrestling on the screen. And it don't pick up too much. Well, it does in terms of amount of wrestling, but They did the deal where the Bloodlines roaming around backstage beating up people because Jimmy's pissed, and they were beating up Ashante Adonis. And did you like B-Fab screaming and waving her hands in the air like she just didn't care?
She was pretty good in this segment. I mean, it added some realism to it, but it does say, I mean, I hate to say the only thing I was thinking watching this was, wow, they really got rid of Top Dollar and kept them.
Yeah.
What is Top Dollar thinking right now?
He's thinking, can I go back to finding lost treasures? So then they had the U.S. title match, which was Rey Mysterio and our friend Pablo Escobar. And by the time the bell rang, we were 52 minutes into the program with 5 minutes of wrestling. And the long match that we get is a babyface match. And we saw he knocked Rey out and had to stop the match. And they've wrestled more since they've been friends than they wrestled each other when they were on opposite sides and they were enemies, have they not?
Well, they've been teasing something happening with them for a few weeks, but I believe they've wrestled a few times. And of course, they also showed Dragon Lee at ringside. They made him a part of this.
Well, and see, now we're cooking. Because the thing is, did you see where they had to wheel the kiddie seat up to the front row so that he could see over the barricade from the front row there with the...
I actually thought him being held back in the crowd was one of the best parts of this.
Well, that's like being the nicest guy in prison. Both those things can be true. It could have been one of the best parts. Now, there wasn't anything the matter with the match. Of course, they didn't care a lot about it because during the match, they were cutting to the back where Solo and Uso were beating up random people wandering down the hall. But they went through 2 breaks. Ray's always... Go ahead.
With Heyman looking kind of horrified, but walking with them.
Well, Heyman is not in favor of any of this because Jimmy's going off and picking fights with, as we'll hear later on, picking fights with people he's not supposed to pick fights with, and he's out of control. And Heyman's wandering around with those bug eyes like, oh my God, here we go. But as far as this match went, it was good. Ray's always good. The fans are into him. Escobar's trying hard. He needs some more than one expression on his face in a match a lot of times. But it went through 2 breaks, and it's a babyface match. And like you said, they've been teasing something's going to happen, but nothing ain't happened yet. And then finally, Ray rolled him up 1, 2, 3. And then he helps him up, and they start to talk. And, Ray, etc., but there's no handshake because then the Prophets hit and beat both of them up. And Lashley comes out smiling and encourages them to beat him up some more. And then the heels left. So we don't know whether there would have been a handshake because that got interrupted. But from the start of the introductions of the match to the out of the heels kicking the shit out of the baby faces, it's 28 fucking minutes. 28 minutes.
I'm not going to complain too much because I thought it was an all right segment and an all right match. And at least now we kind of know a little bit more about where the Street Profits are finally going. They are heels with Lashley like we thought. And again, Dragon Lee tried to jump into the fray. They had him at ringside. So it says something that WWE sees something in him that they want to do something with. And I guess the issues with Escobar and Ray are still up in the air. I almost thought Ray was going to turn heel for a second there because Escobar's just playing such a nice guy.
Yeah. And also, Ray subtly was wearing an all-black outfit.
Yeah, good point.
So, but, and then after that, by the way, I mentioned 28 minutes, but when they came back from the break, they did a recap of what had just happened. And then Ray and Escobar challenged for a tag team match, playa, on the pay-per-view. So let's add another 3 minutes. So they had 31 minutes of television time on this program. But now they're going to be partners at the pay-per-view. There's alliteration there all over the place. So could something happen if they lose that match and then one blames the other? Or are they just going to milk this cow until it's dry?
And then whose side will the LWO take?
Well, they would take the side of the Latino.
Well, no, I guess Ray and Escobar are kind of both the Latino leaders of the LWO, right? Because Escobar was with those other guys before they were in this group. Zelina just kind of came along, and then Ray was doing his own thing with Dominic.
Well, then they better take the side of the heel Latino, because elsewise, if the babyface has the group and the heel's all by himself, well, that's just odd.
Well, we'll see what happens.
They made a big announcement about the signing of Jade Cargill, your favorite new WWE superstar. Can you remember when they made that big of a deal about anybody else on the program? The quotes, the comments, the social media pictures, the whole 9 yards, the announcers putting her over.
No, I mean, it's been a while, but again, they're getting someone who was presented as a top star in AEW, someone who, in the week that the news has been out there, has gotten a shit ton of publicity for it, so you might as well ride it.
Well, but listen, here's the thing. They've never once mentioned AEW. I don't think this has anything to do with how she was or wasn't presented in AEW. And the reason I say that is because they've just said industry renowned. They couldn't say only worked for one promotion in the history of her career. But somebody's got an idea for that girl. We're going to see an eye-popping outfit. We're going to see an entrance. We're going to see a presentation. We're going to see something. Somebody's got an idea for her that they love. And whether it's Vince or whether it's the new ownership or a combination or whatever, they didn't talk about Cody like this when they signed him back, and he'd been there before. And he was a whole lot bigger deal in AEW than Jane was. This is specifically because it's her, and whatever they're going to have her do, they are goddamn in love with, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I can't add too much to that. I mean, I think she has a lot of ideas too. Remember, even though she was a heel, she had pretty spectacular babyface entrances in AEW for big events.
Well, yeah, but
dance routines, all sorts of stuff.
A lot of talent in a lot of places has had ideas of their own, and they didn't make I'm saying that this is a vested interest of somebody really important, that they've got this fucking gimmick or whatever they want her to do, and they're going to push this thing to the moon. So and it's not because they got an AEW star, it's because they got this particular person.
You don't think it's just going to be her with her same AEW gimmick, or her gimmick just presented better?
Yeah, it will be her presented in a big budget, probably different, grandiose way, and they're going to push it to the moon, whatever it is. So I can't specifically say what they're going to do for it, not knowing what it is. But they didn't change her name, and she probably wouldn't want to.
And they shouldn't.
And well, and they, you know, I'm against the whole goddamn owning everybody's name thing, just because it makes it impossible for anybody to be a star anymore. But yes, especially because she's been on national television. But yeah, I don't think it's because it's an AEW signing, or it's because it's that person. Because they have not even treated, as I said, Cody. They gave him a big push right off, but they didn't drop down to their knees and salabim just the fucking fact that he had signed a contract to this extent. But did you like the video on Pretty Deadly?
No, I didn't like the one last week, and I didn't like the one this week.
Purely dreary. This was such unfunny, fake bullshit. It should have been on AEW television. This was not even... The WWE is often silly and stupid, but there's still some element of professionalism to it when it's silly and stupid. This was just fucking rotten. And I don't like these fucking guys anyway, and they look like idiots. And then comes the whatever this was. They should never do this again. I think they should clip this from the tape and never show it on the cock anymore. So Charlotte wrestled Bayley. What'd you think, Brian?
You know, I was kind of fast forwarding a little bit by this point.
Mm-hmm. It was dreary. We were an hour and fucking almost an hour and 40 minutes into the program. I love Charlotte. Bayley's okay, but we knew who was going to win, which she did, Charlotte. Then the heels minister. And then Oscar came out to save and ran him off and screamed in Japanese. And
at EO, who's Japanese.
At EO. But hold on, here's what I'm saying. She, meaning Oscar, was screaming in Japanese at EO, but Bayley accepted an alleged triple threat match with EO versus Oscar versus Charlotte for the women's title that allegedly she had asked for, but that, as the announcers pointed out, that would mean that Bayley must speak fluent Japanese. So whether she asked for that or not, Bayley accepted the match, and then EO got this stunned look on her face. Who would have thought the heel women's group can't get along with each other either? There's constant strife in these organizations. That was that, right?
SmackDown rolls on.
And then finally, what they'd been milking since the start and what anybody who watched this program would have been dying to see by now. Here came John Cena, because he finally got there. The plane was late, but it arrived. And he does the music entrance. They've got 10 minutes left on the air. The babies are being thrown into the sky, the Cena chants. And he cut the promo and explained it perfectly and succinctly. He wants the match. He wants a match. He wants to fight. He's got a contract with the Bloodline that he asked for, but he's got no partner. So he can rip it up and act like it never happened, or he can go it alone. And then he asked the fans, what do you think a guy would never give up on his T-shirt is going to say? And he gets a big pop. And he's going to honor the contract by himself if he can't find a partner. And this only took like a minute and a half or so for him to do. And he did it perfectly. He laid out the fucking deal. And then here comes Solo and Uso and Paul. And Uso's laughing at him. And they all start to get in the ring. And then Cena gets proactive and he nails Uso off the apron. And then he dares Solo to get in and he picks him up for the attitude adjustment, formerly the FU. But by that time, Uso is back up, hits super kick, and they get heat on Cena. And they clear off the announce desk, and Solo is going up as Jimmy was going up, and then say, wait a minute, Solo, you go up. And Solo's going to splash off the top rope onto the desk, onto fucking Cena. And now the LA Knight music hits. And here comes LA Knight running to the ring.
Monster pop, bigger than Cena's.
Huge pop, because they knew Cena was supposed to come out, but now they got the pop of LA Knight, and it's a surprise too, and it's at the right moment. And he hits the ring and makes a big comeback. The LA elbow, the heels powder. LA Knight picks up the contract and signs it. Cena gets shocked face. Oh my God, to sell it like this is big. The heels were mad. The fans were happy. Now that was 10 minutes of fucking wrestling television. We just had to wait an hour and 50 minutes to see it.
Well, that's SmackDown. That's how they do it. The only thing I didn't like, Cena was being too hokey with his facial reactions to LA Knight signing.
Oh, yeah, but, well, it's John's face. He's got an element of hope to that face anymore.
I didn't expect that to be your explanation.
Well, no, think about it. When he was young and he didn't have any wrinkles and he didn't have the bald spot and he had that strong chin, he looked like a goddamn genetic experiment. But now that he's lost a little bit of weight because he can't stay jacked up, constantly and in Hollywood, and he's lost a little bit of hair and he's got a couple of wrinkles. Now he's looking a little bit more like Jim Varney. So you got to go with that and do the Ernest Goes to Camp face.
All right. Well, a bizarre defense of John Cena's faces there, comparing him to Jim Varney.
There's a bit of hope there now, but Mother Nature put it there, so he's just got to go with it. But he was putting LA Knight over, and how shocked he was that this had happened, especially since just 7 days ago, LA Knight was sent home with COVID when it was supposed to happen.
Again, I thought it was a good segment. I just thought Cena's silly faces were too much, but I didn't think of the fact that he now looks like Jim Varney, so that excuses it.
That explains it perfectly, doesn't it?
It does, I guess. Ernest goes to SmackDown.
Yeah, Ernest goes to SmackDown. Co-starring LA Knight. That's a big budget production a studio's going to be putting out. It's going to be a Mammoth Pictures. Jed Clampett recently sold that fucking studio. I'll have you know.
That pop that LA Knight got coming out there, man, I mean, we knew people were getting into him, but they got completely behind him now.
Well, and also because, again, after either the boredom or the quick matches or the constant blathering that they've heard, that I'm talking about the audience in the arena that night, they get the biggest star on the card. They get him to lay out the deal. It's moving. It's not dragging. He lays out the deal. The heels come out to create fucking jeopardy. And just when it looks bad for goddamn John Cena, here comes the second most popular fucking guy on the roster to make the save. They couldn't have done it any better. And that was a way to send the people home, and they might think, wow, I'd go back and see that again instead of, goddamn, how long were we there? Right?
Well, that was WWE Smackdown. Yeah,
Did you just hang up on me? Hello?
I hit my mouse.
Oh.
I hit my mouse mid-sentence. I moved my hand like on a waving motion. So that's SmackDown, and I smacked my mouse. But that was SmackDown, and this is your show.
Well, why are you being cruel to your pets over there? Smacking your mouse.